Hey everybody, welcome to the live. It's Saturday. My name is Charlie. That is Morrison Dog. Yeah, hey Morrison. Yeah, they know you. Anyway, welcome to the live. It's coffee time. We're gonna cover a bunch of great stuff today. Thank you so much for being here. Sorry, last week I couldn't do a live. I was sick from just exhaustion, honestly, just way too fucking much. But we're here now, and we're gonna make some shit happen. So let's get on with the show. Mm. Fantastic. For those of you that are new to the room, every week we do a mailbag show where I answer all of your questions and we address some homework for the week so that y'all can get free ebooks and a discount to the Slack channel and to the Patreon and some other stuff. The Slack has been really blowing up lately with the brand new ebook, and the Patreon take on the ebook has been crazy good. What is going on here? What is happening? Anyway, there we go. So anyway, I really appreciate all that good stuff. The new ebook on the CCCBO, the Cost Cap CBO, the heir apparent to the bucket-based CBO, has been really strong. I actually was just setting it up, a campaign of that type yesterday with one of our group members, Amber, and I took a little peek today, Amber. It looks like the delivery is not happening, so we're going to address some of that today too, and some of the troubleshooting. But we're going to get into finer points of this entire strategy all month long. So it's going to be really great. The first thing that we addressed was creative testing, how to use it for creative testing, because it's all built around getting great ads and then running those ads as big as possible. So today we're going to cover campaign architecture, and we're going to cover campaign architecture, and then we're going to cover some more automated rule theory around it so that we can really start to address how this system works together. And we're going to go over it, and we're going to have weeks and weeks on this thing. And that way, when you get the ebook, and you can ask questions around it, and we can really get success for everybody. I've been using this across the board, and it has been extraordinarily successful. I'm seeing trends now for multiple advertisers as well as myself, and it has been really exciting to see how this strategy is maturing out across a bunch of different advertisers. So we're going to cover that today, and we're going to get to some homework. This week's homework is simple, is just ask for the ebook. I want to make sure that everybody gets it. So it is that easy. So we're not even going to get into too much more than that. And if you want to do anything else, just go back to any of the other lives and we'll get to it. But I really want everybody to get onto this, because from what I've seen, it is the best methodology so far into really scaling people's stuff. And it has been really successful. So I don't even want to cut to the chase with some other things. I do want to make an honorable mention with some other stuff before we dive into the finer points today, that if you have any of the ebooks and you have any questions about the ebooks, please feel free to ask in the group about your questions. So I was meeting with Amber yesterday, and it was really, kind of eye-opening. And also I wanted to address some stuff. When I'm writing these books for everybody, I have to address them for super high-end users and people at the very bottom level. So there's a bunch of questions that everybody has all over the place. And if you have a question, I guarantee you at least 1,000 or 2,000 or 3,000 other people have the same question. So it really is awesome when somebody says, hey, what's this thing? I don't quite understand it. When you ask that in the group and then I can answer it for you, your simple question is helping hundreds or thousands of other people. It is really helpful. So thank you for that. And I really encourage everybody to come in and try to, sorry, my laptop's going to die here. I was doing too much stuff yesterday off the laptop. So boom, got it. Okay. So anyway, really encourage everyone to ask those questions and be specific. And if you ask a question about the ebook, how about this? If you ask a question about any of the ebooks that you've gotten, I'll give you another ebook for free. How about that? Okay, that's the homework. Screw it. I mean, yes, you can just ask, but honorable mention homework. Ask a question about something that you read in an ebook that can help me help everybody else with it. And I'll give you another one for free, okay? So let's do that. And this can go back from anything from a book on automated rules, the funnel, retargeting, the brand builder, the e-com brand builder blueprint stuff, bucket-based CBO, how to use CBO things, even the brand new one, the Cost Cap CBO piece, which I'm already working on a follow-up, so hopefully that'll help. And I've been really trying, I really love your feedback also on the new ebook, because I tried to make it as actionable as possible, something where you could take this and set something up from ground zero, following these instructions, and within a little bit of time, you're gonna start to really see some good stuff. So anyway, there we go. Before we get into covering the stuff on the CCCBO, I did get some questions this week, so I wanted to address them here. Boom, all right. And then we'll also address the poll, and then we'll get into all of the stuff about CCCBO. Cost cap, campaign budget, optimization. There you go. Okay. So what is going on with my hair today? I don't know what's happening. Who knows? Hi, Abdul. How about Bilal? Sorry you guys are watching me mess my hair. Anyway, here we go. Here's some questions that I had in my head. Not sure if these have been discussed already, but if so, please disregard. Also, if these questions have been asked already, ask them again. I'll answer the question every fucking week. I don't care. I saw some really great stuff this week. People asking about creative optimization and dynamic creative and everything else. If you ask the questions, I will answer them. I'll post them. Anybody that asks a question will get them answered by me, and then I'll post them into the group. And I've been finally able to catch up on everything. There was like a couple of like weird spam networks that I had to go through like hundreds and hundreds of posts to delete just all this like, honestly, like weird Asian porn, and like, I don't know, it was bizarre. Anyway, got through them all now, so there should be almost no pending requests, and my goal is hopefully every day to clear that out. So here we go. When you start with CBO and then you put minimum spends without maximums, how will that affect the learning of the campaign? So what Tyler is talking about here, hopefully, is the CCCBO. The Cost Cap CBO strategy relies on putting minimum spends when you're doing creative testing. And where the difference between that and bucket-based CBO is bucket-based, we had minimums and maximums to control the delivery. Whereas in Cost Cap CBO, we're just using minimums. And that's because what we want to do is make sure that each concept that we're testing, creative testing, gets some spend every day, so that we can make sure that it evens out the delivery and learnings. So how it affects putting minimums without maximums is that we're making sure that everything kind of has a floor. If you're spending $100 a day and you've got 5 concepts, and you're putting your concept floor at your minimum spend at $10, you're asking Facebook to spend at least $10 every day, if it can, on those concepts. You don't want to come back tomorrow and say, well, you only spent 3 cents. So you really you're asking Facebook to allocate the money there. Now, what I've found is that it doesn't designate that money all the way over to any one particular ad set or whatnot. If it can't spend that money, but it can spend $95 on something else, well, it will. But it's going to try to spend it there, which is a little odd, but it won't affect basically what you do when you put minimums on without a maximum. The minimums themselves will try to even out the learnings so that no one ad set or no one audience runs away with the entire campaign. However, if something is just phenomenally great and something else is failing, you also won't be penalized by trying to allocate funds in different areas. It will, at least level off the learning. So that is really strong. So when we put minimum spends in without maximums, the way that affects the learnings is that it just helps make sure that everything has a fair shot at getting some, instead of just letting CBO run off with one idea. The next question says, how do I add new ad sets that I have tested to a CBO campaign? Now, this is a much bigger idea. How you going? Hi, everybody. Was that Raditya and Abdullah? Nice to see you guys. So how do I add new ad sets that I have tested to a CBO campaign? By the way, this is all coming from Tyler Jason, so thank you, Tyler. And what we want to do here, what he's asking is, say he has an existing CBO campaign and he's tested ad sets somewhere else and he wants to move them over. So the way that this would work is, say I have a creative testing campaign and I've got a concept, an ad set that is working really well. How do I move that into a scaling campaign? Because that's the real idea of a CCCBO, is that you've got a testing campaign and a scaling campaign. So the way you move it over is really simple. You duplicate it over. There's no real fancy effort. This is one of the reasons I built it this way, was so that it has the easiest execution. The way you do it is you literally just hit duplicate and you bring it over and you make sure that you're carrying over everything that you want to. Remember that because the learnings are happening at the ad level, you're not missing anything by moving one ad set from one place to another. The only real thing that has to ramp back up is the way that the spend is being allocated. Hi, Oliver. So remember, the way that Facebook works is the ads are the sales pitch, right? And I was just talking to Amber about this yesterday. And I think I've used this example to a lot of you guys, and Raba has really liked this, so I'm gonna stick with it. The ads are your sales pitch. So Facebook learns how to use your sales pitch. That's where the learning's happening at the ad level. So when you test creatives, when you're doing ad testing, what you're doing is you're trying to teach Facebook how to use these sales pitches, and you're learning which sales pitches are the best. Your ad set is like your salesman, right? So that is like your sales, you're training it how to use your sales pitches. Now, the campaign is like your sales manager. It's the person in charge of the store. So the campaign says, okay, I've got these 3-4 ad sets. Each one of those ad sets has different or has sales pitches in it. And so I'm allocating the funds appropriately. Now, what Tyler's asking is, if I have a new ad set that I've tested, how do I move it over into an existing campaign? And what you can do is you can duplicate that entire ad set over into the campaign. However, now that I'm explaining this, I think I want to be really clear. Most of the time, especially in the CCCBO, sorry, I'm still not used to saying it. When you have a scaling campaign, our scaling campaigns are going to be 3 ad sets. I can already tell you what those ad sets are. You don't need to go beyond them. It is going to be broad targeting, so only age and gender. And then you're going to have a lookalike 1%, a stacked lookalike. And when I say stacked, and I use this in the book, and I have a proofreader now that is helping me out. And so she doesn't understand ads at all, so it's great. A stacked lookalike basically means you're taking 3 lookalike audiences and you're using them together inside of one ad set. So when you're using your custom audience section inside of your ad set, there it's going to be a lookalike. Hi, Venning. It's going to be lookalikes of your top performing audiences. And generally what I find the best lookalike audiences to use are purchasers for the last 180 days. So just the broadest scope of purchaser data that your pixel has. A value-based lookalike, and again, as broad as you can, which is really easy to make. I dropped into the group this week how to make them, and a sheet that was from the Patreon that was buried way, way deep, because it was one of the very first things that we did, because I've been using them forever. But I felt like, why keep it on the Patreon? I'm suggesting people to use this thing. Let me make it as easy as possible, so I just made it public in the group. And what the value base does is it takes your data from your Facebook pixel and it tries to find the people that are likely to spend the most amount of money with you. So you have a purchaser from the last 180 days, which are the people most likely to buy. And then you have the value base, so it's the people most likely to spend the most amount of money. And then a third audience, which is more an objective audience. So for that one, I find the 2 best versions for that third audience are either A, a lookalike of your CRM list. So a lot of people will have this giant email list, right, or of contacts or leads or something, or previous customers that may or may not be in the Facebook pixel. Maybe their app downloads or leads or something, something along those lines. Or if you're selling multiple products, this can be a lookalike of the buyers of that specific product. So say your store has a $20 product and a $50 product and a $100 product. If your campaign is trying to sell that $20 product, then you can do a lookalike of the buyers of just that $20. So your lookalike audience inside of your CCCBO campaign, your Cost Cap CBO campaign, maybe I should just say Cost Cap CBO, it's way less confusing, will be the broad audience, the lookalike 1% of lookalike 1%, which will be an audience that is lookalike 1% purchase 180 day, lookalike 1% of the value based, and a lookalike 1% of the people that bought the product that you're selling, or maybe your entire CRM list or something like that. And then the third audience will be the exact same audience is using a 1%, but at a 10%. So your scaling campaign is going to be just 3 audiences, 3 ad sets. Hi, Patrick. Hi, James. How you guys doing? So all you're really using there is those 3 audiences. So you've got broad, which is going to give you the lowest CPMs. It's also going to give you the lowest click-through rate, but it's going to get you basically the highest amount of volume for the lowest cost. Very valuable. The lookalike 1% is going to give you the highest CPMs and the highest click-through rates. So that's your premium audience, but you're going to get them, you're going to have to pay a little bit more for them. And the lookalike 10% is a bit of a balance, right? So that's your Goldilocks, right? It's, one is super cheap traffic, one is super high quality traffic, and then one is hopefully somewhere in the middle. And so that's what your entire scaling campaign is going to be, those 3 audiences. You don't need more. There's nothing about interest. There's nothing about, behaviors or trying to use detailed targeting on anything. That's not really beneficial. For this system, you don't need to do that. And honestly, I've tried those things and they just get in the way. There's no need for them. So in this case, when Tyler's saying, how do I add new ad sets that I've tested to a CBO campaign? In the world of Cost Cap CBO, if you have concepts that you've tested, instead of your creative testing, you're not actually going to move over the entire winning concept. What you're moving over is just the winning single ad, the best performing ad that you've done creative testing on. Whenever your ad spends a certain amount of money, and I've dropped those all inside the ebook, but I think it's like 20 to 50 times your target CPA. So for instance, if it's a $50 product, if you spent $1,000 on it, then okay, this is strong enough for me to understand. I've given Facebook enough information, or it's 50 times, sorry. So if it's a $50 product, it's like $2,500. It takes a long time. But that way, the ads that you're actually running with in the scaling campaign are going to be the best ads. Now, obviously, some people have different budgets, and this is just a starting place, a suggestion. We can change this around for everybody. But that is just, I was trying to make a very generic goalpost for people that are beginners and super high-end. There are people here spending $500 a month, and there are people here spending, $1 million a month. So I was trying to say that's a rough estimate. Generally, you want at least 10 to 20 times the target CPA. You need Facebook, you need that ad set to have exited the learning phase, and you need that ad to have spent enough to be stable. Your entire account, when it starts off, can be just creative testing. That's fine. Creative testing is actually going to work really, really well. It should, in theory, work better, give you better results at just a CPA level than your scaling campaign, because you're going to get a bunch of winners in there. your scaling campaign, the point of that is that that's where you can begin to push spend. When you want to scale the account, you can start to push spend on the scaling campaign, and you're going to get basically the same cost every day. But you can start to push, $100, $200, $500, $1,000, $5,000. Like, you can really start to ramp it up. And because the only thing that's in the scaling campaign is something that's gone through this rigorous testing model, that those ads have been trained. The learnings happening at the ad level will allow that campaign to be really, really strong. So hopefully that answers the question. I know it may not have been exactly what you were asking for, but I'm trying to put it into here with some context. So hopefully that helps. And if it doesn't, or if that's confusing, just go ahead and ask questions in the chat, and I'll answer them, whether or not it's today or a year from now. Just tag me in your question. We'll get to it. Hi, Dave. So speaking of which, Abdullah asked a question a little bit ago. Says, do you suggest to do manual bidding always, such as cost cap, even if it's a fresh new account? Great question. And what I would say is I would always try to start with cost cap. You're going to run into 3 situations. Number 1, the cost cap bid is correct, and you're basically able to spend right away, and it's working, and then you find a winner, and then you put it into a scaling campaign, you push that, and it's gravy, and that's fantastic. That's not very likely, but that is the best case situation. And it happens. It happens maybe about 20, 30% of the time. That happens. Number 2 possible outcome is that you just don't get any delivery. And this is actually something, Amber, if you're watching, hi, Jeff. We set up a campaign yesterday, and when I'm looking at the ad account, and I'll just take a look at it again. By the way, if you don't know, you can put your Facebook ads manager onto your phone if you use Chrome. You guys can't see that at all. But if you use business.facebook, you can actually load your business manager straight into here and make a cool little preview. I actually set my custom columns to have like a mobile version, and so I can see what's happening now. So I can see these different little pieces here, right? And you can zoom in and out and all sorts of stuff. But so anyway, back to the point. Amber and I set up a Cost Cap CBO campaign yesterday. It's not getting delivery. So now we have to go to point number 2, is if you don't get spend, then you have 2 options. A, you can raise your bids. I tend to find that raising your bids there doesn't really help, because the problem is that Facebook doesn't have enough data to understand who those people are. Because manual bid is trying to predict. Facebook says, well, I know, I have an idea of who the people are that are going to buy, and I'm going to go out and try to find them. If Facebook doesn't have any data, then it doesn't really know who those people are, then it's going to be very unlikely to be able to deliver those conversions. Now, sometimes your product is really similar to other products that people have sold, so Facebook can use the data from other advertisers to understand who likely buyers are for your product. So even if your ad account doesn't have any spend and it's a fresh new ad account, if somebody else is selling something, the dog's gone, I was going to use dog food, but say we're selling this cup, all right? And this is something I've had since I was a kid. I don't know where my parents got it. But say you're selling this cup. You might have a brand new ad account to sell this cup, and you have no pixel data. But Facebook knows, based on your product description and the landing page and the stuff on Shopify, and when you've connected your product catalog and a bunch of other things, Facebook knows a lot about this cup just based on the metadata. And it can say, okay, well, I know a bunch of other people that have tried to sell something similar, if not the exact same thing for you dropshippers out there. And based on that, I'll have enough data to try to spend. So that's option number 2. Option number 3, remember I said there are 3 things that are likely to happen. Now, option number 2 will push spend, but it generally won't fix the problem. So the third thing that can happen is going to lowest cost bidding, or what they call auto bidding. Abdullah, absolutely. You beat me to it, man. Is using auto bidding and letting Facebook get enough data for that. The danger in auto bidding is that you're not really controlling for cost. So you have to make sure that your automated rules are in place. And that's what we're going to address here in a minute. However, you will ultimately want to be running to a cost cap so that you can train the ads to work based on your business objectives. When you do lowest cost bidding, Facebook, what it's looking for in the lowest cost is the lowest cost for actions. So CBO, campaign budget optimization, and I've done a lot of work with reps on this. And thank you, Megan and Mike, and Chidi, for all your help. But lowest cost bidding, and there's a bunch of other reps. I'm not going to go into a name dropping session, but lowest cost bidding, CBO is looking to try to find the most actions. Now, Facebook defines that as any action. So that's people clicking on the name of your Facebook page, or looking at more comments, or leaving a comment, or watching the video, or commenting themselves. Like, it's not necessarily people buying something. CBO is built to drive the most amount of actions. It wants Facebook users to be engaged with Facebook. When you use CBO with a conversion objective, you're saying drive the most amount of actions and use that to get me as many sales as possible for whatever price. When you do that with lowest cost bidding, you'll tend to pay more than you need to for something, but you're gonna get spend every day. So we need to rely on automated rules to train the ads to do what we want in our own business objectives. And that is really the purpose of automated rules, is to say, turn ads on or off based on certain objectives. And when you start to constrain delivery to certain ads, when you turn ads on or off, you're forcing you're forcing your salesmen to basically do a good job, even though they don't understand what it is that you want them to do. It's like training a dog. They can't understand you talking. Like, my dog doesn't know English, but when I shame him for doing something and I reward him for doing something, he understands over time, these are good things, these are bad things. Facebook is really, really good at that. It's really, really good at learning. It takes a couple of days, but a dog might take weeks or months. So it's really, really strong at that. So if your ad account, Amber, or anybody else, doesn't get delivery, your next best option is to do auto bidding or lowest cost bidding. And the way you do that is when you go to the campaign level, you scroll down past the campaign budget and you can say, what are you optimizing for your bid, your delivery? You go from cost cap to lowest cost. And they'll automatically change all the ad sets inside and switch them to lowest cost, and you'll start getting spend immediately. But use your automated rules to train that. And ultimately, once Facebook has enough data and you're really confident in it, you can start to switch it back over to cost cap. It's a better dog. It is. I mean, my dog's a really good dog, but yeah, you can put it back to cost cap. And then not only are you having automated rules be the guardrails, but you're training the ads to win at your specific business objective, which is a cost at a certain price. I know that's kind of complicated, but I hope that helps, because it's a complicated answer and I'm trying to help everyone. So anyway, that all being said, let's get into the lessons for the week. I should really get like music or something. So when I do like a little, now let's do this, it's like, do, 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 do. Anyway, we'll see what happens. I gotta get a little soundboard or something on my phone. Anyway, sorry, that was an extreme aside. Getting into the stuff for the week. So we've talked a lot about, we've talked a lot about automated rules, and we've talked a lot about campaign architecture. And so that's a lot of the stuff that I really wanted to get into today. So we're going to get into that stuff today. So we've already addressed a fair bit today about the campaign architecture, but I want to cover it again just a little bit, and then we'll get in straight into the rules. Oh wow, I thought I uploaded this thing here, but I guess I didn't. Oh man, sorry guys. I just realized my Slack didn't get the most recent update here. I was going to it to find the ebook stuff, but here we go. Okay. Well, my bad, fellas and ladies. So while we're uploading this thing, Abdullah says, talking about rules, do I use Reveal By? No, Abdullah, I actually use just the Facebook automated rules. I think that they're strong enough in themselves. I don't need anything that they're not giving me, if that makes sense. They're really powerful. I think what people tend to struggle with is understanding how best to put the rules together. It's not necessarily so much about being able to combine rules together to make really complex rules. It's use several different rules on top of each other so that you can really have everything doing one job. And then as a result, you kind of have this cascading tiered approach of accomplishing your overall goals. So that being said, let me give some examples of the automated rules. So here are straight from the ebook. And, so if you don't want to get the ebook for free by asking for it, I can give you some tips here. This is a page about how to apply, what rules to apply to all ads in active campaigns. So if you want to do creative testing inside of it, which is something we've talked about, right? These are the automated rules that you can use to try to constrain some of it. And Amber, I know we didn't really get into this stuff with you, but we can get into it as well. But this is really simple. And I really would love to see, if you guys just do this piece, your Facebook ads will immediately begin to be more efficient. Because what we're going to do here is stop ads that aren't working and let Facebook learn by saying, good dog, bad dog, what it is that you really want it to do outside of just saying, I want you to make sales and here's a bid, or I want you, whatever. Especially inside of CBO, where you have to tell Facebook, you have to train Facebook on your business objectives. So we're going to cover 4 basic rules here. And these rules happen at the ad level, at the ad set level, at the campaign level. But I want to show you basically the theory behind them. And inside the book, you can see the actual application at each level. But as an example, let's go into how to use this for creative testing. Rule number 1, pause your ad if you have 0 conversions and your spend is over 5 times your target CPA. So for instance, say your target CPA is $10. If you spend $50 today and you don't get any conversions, then pause that ad. And what you're saying is, okay, today that ad is not working. Now, a lot of you guys would be like, well, how, if I've got, 5 or 6 ads and they all have to spend $50 to turn off, that's $300-400. I can't spend that kind of money. Don't worry about making it necessarily a sale. You could have this set to, and I've used this for people where we use it on initiate checkout or add to cart or, view content or link click. Do it to something where you can understand the value of it. Say, for instance, 1 out of 10 people that add to cart will buy. Okay. And you're selling a product for $50. Okay. Now you know that you can set your add to cart price to $5 because 1 out of 10 will make a purchase and your target CPA is $50. So you can now set the rule to say, if I get 10 add to carts, that should equal 1 sale. So now I can set my rule, and I can set my rules to an add to cart level. It doesn't mean that you have to change your ad set to optimize the add to cart. It just means you set your rule to the add to cart level. So Abdullah says, so you're saying not to go straight to purchase conversion? No, Abdullah, so go straight to purchase conversion on the ad set level. Absolutely. What I'm saying is when you're setting your rules up, you can set your rule to not necessarily have to be at the purchase level. So it doesn't necessarily say, oh, if my 5 times my target CPA, I want to make a purchase. Let's use $10. So I want to, if it spends over 5 times my target CPA, turn this ad off because it's not working today. Well, if it's $10, that means $50 you have to spend before the rule will kick in. But if I know that roughly every 10 add to carts equals a purchase, then I can set that rule to 1/10 of my CPA, because I can say, what's my cost per add to cart? So inside the automated rules, you have a lot of options of what you're going to apply the rules to. So if your cost per add to cart, in this case, goes over $1, then you know that's what your target should be. So in this case, if you spend $5 and you don't get any add to carts today, turn that ad off. So hopefully that helps. So if your target CPA is $10 and you want to say that your spend, if it's over 5 times that, turn your ad off. That would have to spend $50. But because you know 1 out of 10 add to carts makes a sale, then you can say, and this is, every account is different. I'm not saying that for you 1 out of 10 add to carts. I'm just an example. So no problem, Abdullah. I'm glad to help. We're gonna keep going, man. Then you can say, okay, I don't need to get $50 and spend. If 1 out of 10 works, then I only need $5. So I'm gonna say, if I've spent $5 and I have 0 add to carts, turn that ad off. So that's rule number 1. And you can set this as high in the funnel or as low in the funnel as you can afford. But this works for people that can spend $100 a day. You just have to make sure that you're understanding what those conversion rates are, right? So maybe it's 100 people that click to your site, end up adding to cart, and 1 out of 10 of those make a purchase and you're selling a product for $100. Like, you can get way down the rabbit hole with this math. But just try on an add to cart. It makes the math a lot easier. And if you want to know what your conversion rate is, just go, last 30 days, divide how many purchases you have by how many add to carts that you have. Okay? And so maybe it's you have 500 add to carts and you've got 50 purchases. Okay, now I know 1 out of 10 add to carts gets me a purchase. So if my target CPA is $10 to make a sale, I know that I divide that by 10. So I can, so you can get that math really, really easy. Takes a little bit of something, but you can do it on the back of a napkin with a calculator. It's really, really simple. Next, rule number 2 is pause the ad if the CPA is 10% over your target CPA and your spend is 6 times your CPA. So what we're saying here is, rule number 1 is pause if you get 0 conversions. Right. So rule number 2 says, okay, I'm getting some conversions, but maybe my goal is it's costing way too much. So if I've spent 6 times that, pause. So if my target CPA, and I've throw some examples in here, but if my target CPA is $20 and so far today I've spent $120 and I'm getting conversions at like $22, that 22 is 10% over my target CPA of 20. And I've spent 6 times that so far today. So today I'm getting conversions, but I'm not getting them efficiently enough. Pause the ad. And again, you can do this for the same thing. Let's go back to the example of a $10 product where we're now setting the rule to the add to cart level. So we're just going to say, if we've spent 6 times our target CPA, so in this case, if our target CPA for an add to cart is $1, and we've spent $6, and we're getting some add to carts, but if those add to carts are coming in for more than a 10% over our target, if our target is $1, so we spent $6, and our cost per add to cart is coming in at over $1.10, pause the ad. So what this is doing is it's saying, yes, it's working, but you're not working well enough. So we're going to pause that ad for today. And the reason you want to do this is you're telling Facebook, okay, you're doing a good job, but you're not doing it well enough. I appreciate that you're getting add to carts. That's great. But your add to carts aren't coming in efficiently enough. I'm going to pause the ad and let other ads do the work. And the reason you're doing this is because you should have, 3 to 5, 6, or I think the optimal level, and I quote this in the book. Let me see exactly what it is that I said in the book so that I can quote it exactly. You should have at least 3, but no more than 10 ad concepts per offer. So, per ad set. So, when you're doing this, you're saying, all right, maybe my spend on a daily basis is like $20. And this ad spent like $6 and it's not really efficient enough. Turn that one off. It's going to force the spend to the other ads. And then hopefully at least one of those other ads is doing well enough that you're getting your targets, you're getting your target CPAs, your conversion at an appropriate price. So in this case, if you know that 1 out of 10 add to carts leads to a purchase, and your purchase is trying to get it at $10. So your add to cart CPA is $1. Hopefully doing this will turn off the ads that are getting you add to carts for over $1 or over close to $1. So hopefully you're spending more money on ads that are getting them for like 89 cents or like $1.05, right around your target. Maybe not exactly it, but you're not spending money where it's very inefficient. So what you're doing is you're forcing Facebook to spend the money on the ads that are working better that day. Facebook should be doing this on its own, but it doesn't necessarily have all the data to understand everything that you're trying to do, and CBO is optimizing for the ads that are most likely to get actions, so clicks and comments and all this other stuff, not necessarily a purchase. So now you're training Facebook where it should spend the money. Now, there's 2 other rules. The third rule is to say restart your ads at 12:30 a.m. So if you turn the ad off for the day, turn them back on at 12:30. And the reason we say 12:30 is because you may have other rules and some stuff happens all the time. Facebook does things at midnight. You don't want to turn on ad on at midnight and then have another ad that's down in the list, turn it back off. It gets super messy. Just put in 12:30 and then your ads will start running. There's not an optimization that's saying, oh, well, the first half hour of the day is, we don't know. Just saying turn them back on at 12:30. Now the fourth rule, which is really key, is to say turn the ad back on or reactivate the ad if that CPA drops below the target in-day CPA. So what we're saying is, say an ad got turned off because it was coming in at like $1.25 for that add to cart. Maybe somebody got served an ad, in the morning, and then at lunch they go back in and they add to cart, or they make a purchase, or some other event happens. Not everybody clicks on an ad, adds the cart, and makes a purchase all right away. It might take 20 minutes or an hour or something. Sometimes people will open it up and then they, have to walk into a meeting, or they're going to lunch, or, whatever happens in their life, right? So they don't convert for 20 minutes or an hour or a couple hours. those conversions, sometimes it also just takes time for Facebook to see the data from your website because you're busy. CPAs will come down over time. And this is one reason also that we say to only look at your data at a 1-day post-click versus the 28-day. It's because if a sale comes in afterwards, you want to make sure that the attribution is pretty narrow. So for the same reason, using the same logic that says that we want to look at a Facebook ad at a 1-day click, knowing that it takes sometimes a conversion doesn't happen right away. We also know that in this case, an add to cart or a purchase or something might take 20 minutes or 30 minutes or an hour or two, a couple hours to actually happen. That cost per the add to cart or the conversion will come down during the day. Guaranteed, the cost that you have at noon will be less than the cost that you have at midnight. Now, the further down the funnel, the more that number moves. If you're just looking at link clicks, it won't move at all. But if you're looking at an action on your site, for instance, an add to cart or a purchase, that number will come down more and more throughout the day. Now, purchase will come down more than an add to cart because, well, it doesn't really matter, but that number will move throughout the day. So if that number, say in the morning, you deliver a bunch of impressions and you get a bunch of clicks and you spend like $10 and you get like 3 add to carts. So now you're at like $3.30, whatever. But an hour or two later, Facebook will turn that ad off. But within the next half an hour or 2 hours, Facebook sees, oh, these people are adding to cart. Oh, some of these people have purchased. And then that number, that cost goes from $3 to 80 cents. Then turn that ad back on. But what you've done is you've stopped Facebook from spending when it didn't get the result right away. And what you're doing is you're training Facebook to see, okay, I want sales right away. I want to waste the least amount of money. And you don't know whether or not those sales are going to come in. So until they do, you just take a break, right? Go take lunch, basically, is what you're telling the ad to do. And if sales come back in and that work from the morning pans out, then you've got more money to spend. But while you're waiting on those results to come, you're funneling money into other ads. So if you apply this to your creative testing, what will ultimately happen is over time, the best ads that get the most desired results for the lowest price, the fastest, will get the most amount of spend. And as a result, you're going to train your best ads faster. So those ads will, and you'll see this when you're running it, eventually 1 or 2 ads, if say you have 5 ads or 10 ads, 1 or 2 of them will start to run away with the spend. And it's because you've turned off all the other ads, and that's the one that keeps working. So the rules are turning off other ads that are failing, and Facebook starts to see, oh, well, this is the ad that you want me to spend on. So because that's the ad that you want to put spend on, Facebook understands how to use it, and because it learns on that ad more, it tends to favor that ad, and because it tends to favor that ad, it does better, and then that ad learns more and more and becomes really strong, and then that becomes one of your control ads. That becomes one of your default best set practice ads that you want to use. That's the ad that you move from creative testing to a scaling campaign. And now what you've done is you've taken all of the factors in the world of your target audiences. And by the way, testing should only be done against broad audience for this type of strategy. Because if it works against a broad audience, it'll work against a broad audience, which means you don't need to rely on targeting for something to work. You've tested a bunch of different sales pitches against the biggest audience that you possibly can, and it still worked, which means that that is an ad that has had the hardest chance, that has the hardest time to try to succeed. And when it does, then you know you can spend a ton of money against it. and it will always work for you. So that's sort of the idea. So that's where we're using creative testing with automated rules to train Facebook how to use the ads that we want Facebook to use. Yeah, so that's how we put these together. And then your scaling campaign is comprised only of ads that have made it through that entire process. So you know that you can rely on it, and those ads are going to constantly give you roughly the same price, roughly the same performance day over day, and that you can ramp up your spend, and you're only spending the majority of your money on those ads, so you can scale your entire account. Yeah, so if that makes sense. So that's why we have 2 separate campaigns. And for this to work, you only need 2 campaigns per product, which makes it extraordinarily simple. And each campaign, your creative testing campaign, is only targeting one audience, broad, and organized by concepts. And then your scaling campaign has 3 audiences, a broad, a 1% lookalike, and a 10% lookalike. That's it. There's no interest groups, there's no behaviors, there's no detailed targeting, there's none of that other stuff to get in the way. There's no like audience testing and all this other stuff, because it's not effective. You don't need to do that because you've tested your ads against broad, against the biggest possible audience. And if it's a very big audience, then you know you can spend a shit ton of money against it. When you have all these other audiences that are detailed targeting and trying to test things, it's going to take you a very long time to understand if that audience is good for you, and then it's which ad is good in that audience, and it gets really messy. You don't need to be that messy. There's no benefit to working that hard. You can work smarter. And by working smarter, we're just saying what ad works for everybody. Okay, this ad works for everybody. Now I'm going to spend as much money against everybody as possible. And you can be always able to spend more money against broad audience, just age and gender limiting, than you ever will against like a lookalike or an interest group or something else, because there's just more people there. So you're going to be able to spend more, you're going to have more stable performance, and you'll be able to do it for a longer period of time. So Abdullah asks, if we turn off the ad, they'll stop seeing the ad. Then how would there be a purchase? All right, so Abdullah, let me run it for instance. Say you serve me an ad for this t-shirt, right? So I like this shirt. You send me the ad, I click on it, and I say I add to cart, but I don't buy because I don't have my credit card on me, or because I might want to buy other things, or I'm shopping in the thing, but I get called into, I've got to go to work, right? Or I, have to set up for dinner, or any of those things. So I might not buy right away, but say I come back in half an hour, or I come back an hour later, it's after dinner, or I've got arrived to work, or whatever the thing is. Then I open up my phone again, there's the ad again, I've already got the thing in my cart, so I just go to the site, it's in my cart already, okay, I'm ready to buy. That's a really common practice. That's the way a lot of people do buying on Facebook, and buying in real life. Just because when you go to the grocery store, say you start in the milk aisle and you work your way across the store, it might take you 20 minutes to get from one side of the grocery store to the other. Maybe it takes you, like when I was a kid, we would shop for a while. It might take us an hour to get through the whole store because we're going down each individual lane. That first product that I put in my cart doesn't actually get bought for another 45 minutes or an hour later. The same thing happens on Facebook. When somebody looks at your product or even adds it to cart, they might not buy for half an hour, 45 minutes, or a couple hours later, because your store might be super huge, or they might get distracted, or something else might happen. If you go to the bar and you order a drink, or if you go out to dinner and you order food, you don't pay for it right away. Very few times do you actually see an item and pay for it immediately. Most of the time, this takes a while to occur. And if it takes a while to occur, That's where the difference is. You could be spending on that ad. So say it's the grocery store example, right? And you got some milk, and now you're working your way through like dog food and toilet paper and like rice and beans and sauces and the frozen food section and the meat or whatever. I might be spending. Facebook might say, "Oh, this person clicked on this ad. They're really interested in milk. So let me try to sell as much milk as possible." And by the time you might try to spend a shit ton of money there, but I'm in the bread section, or I'm in the dog food section, or I'm in the meat section. I don't care about milk anymore. And maybe other people don't. But by the time I get to the end of the store, so what you're doing is you're saying, well, stop spending money there because this person hasn't made a purchase yet. Try selling this item or this item. It's a rough example because you should be selling the same product. But the idea is it might take a while for somebody to make that purchase. So that being said, sometimes it also just takes a while for the site to tell Facebook, hey, this purchase happened. Purchase information isn't sent from Shopify back to Facebook immediately all the time. Shopify or WooCommerce or anything, ClickFunnels, whatever, they're really busy. It might take them 45 minutes to tell Facebook that the purchase happens. You might buy right away and then not see the purchase happen in Facebook for 20 minutes or an hour. So it might be nothing other than just a problem of the data, but there's a lot of things out of your control. So don't even worry about it. And we're saying when Facebook, if you're not getting the results, hold off and try something else. And then if the thing worked great, awesome, turn it back on. And Abdullah says, but they might buy it from a retargeting ad. Yeah, they might buy it from the retargeting ad. Hopefully what happens here, and the reason that we're saying one day is that somebody doesn't click on one ad, your retargeting ad set probably won't show the ad to that exact same person in the exact same time 20 minutes later. Generally, there's a little bit of give and a take. You can try to optimize for that far down, but you're going to really wreck your brain trying to do really well there. All we're trying to do is say, for this instance, just let Facebook optimize out for the creatives that are going to get you the best result the fastest. It's going to solve for 75 to 85% of consumer behavior, and that's good enough. That's good enough for you to optimize your store, because the majority of people, when they're setting up the accounts, don't have anywhere close to that. You're just trying to make Facebook work, and most of the time it's not, because you're putting in way too much thought and you're trying to be smarter than the machine, and the honest truth is the machine's just smarter. So lastly, I did want to talk a little bit about campaign architecture, and I know that we have gone over this a lot. So I'm just going to cover this at a very high level, and then we can dive into it deeper next week if you guys want to. But for Cost Cap CBO, campaign architecture is really simple. Number one is you have your creative testing ad set or campaign, where you're organizing your creatives by concept. So it's ads, right? So you're organizing your ads by a type of concept. So jewelry, might be, this is a product image, and then this is, the jewelry on somebody's body, or maybe, maybe it is, this is the dog eating the dog food, and then another concept is like product shots of the dog food, and then another concept is like a happy dog running around. Organizing by concept. And so each one of those ad sets, each one of those concepts is targeting broad targeting, just using age and gender. You want to cast as wide a net as possible, so they reach as many people as possible for as cheap as possible. The less amount of targeting that you have, the lower your CPMs are, which means you give Facebook more data faster. Also, if something works in broad, there's no audience you can scale more into than broad. And if it works and is stable and broad, then you can spend a shit ton of money on it and it'll still work for you. So that's your creative testing campaign. You can have it as simple as one ad set. But say you have 3 pictures. You can put up those 3 pictures and have them all go to the same landing page, use the same copy and headline and description. Don't change anything. The only thing that's different is the picture or the video or something. You only want to change one element. Now, that's 3 ads. If you want to double the amount of ads, duplicate them and change the headline or change the primary text. But what you want is for them to be almost uniform. You don't want any change, only one element, right? So your first 3, the only thing that you're changing is the picture. And then when you duplicate those 3 ads, the only thing that you changed was the copy. So now you have 6 ads off of 3 pictures. Great. Now, say you've got, so that could be as simple for one product. Say you've got some videos for that product. Say you've got like 2 or 3 videos. Say it's 1 video, right? You've got 1 video for that product. Okay. You take that video and you put in that video with 1 set of primary text and 3 sets of headlines. That's now 3 ads. If you want to make 6 ads, you take the same video and you put in a different primary text with the same 3 headlines from before. That gives you 6 ads. And that's another ad set, right? So 1 would be the pictures, 1 would be the videos. And so you can do this and you can very, very quickly, in this case, we have 3 pictures and a video, we've got 18 ads. So you can ramp up the number of your ads really, really quickly. And you're testing them all against broad. Inside of this testing structure with the automation, you're going to find out really quickly what ads work and what ads don't. When you find a winner, when you want to graduate your ads to your scaling campaign is going to have 3 ad sets. Broad targeting, again, only age and gender. Then the lookalike, where you're using your 3 best lookalike sources. I suggest lookalike 1%. You can lookalike of your purchases from the last 180 days, a value-based lookalike, and maybe a lookalike from your CRM list or people that have purchased that product. So you have broad targeting, you have a 1% lookalike, and you have a 10% lookalike. 3 ad sets inside of that scaling campaign. And then you set the campaign budget, and you have only your winning ads inside of that one. And that scaling campaign should be very stable. And you can push your spend, your budget level there, and you'll see basically pretty good results all the time. And if you're using Cost Cap, because you're using the Cost Cap CBO, set your bid level to about 10% above whatever your target is. And that way you get a lot of volume. And then you can use your automated rules to control Facebook's delivery so that Facebook will turn off any ad that comes in over your CPA. So you're really using both the cost cap to have Facebook favor the ads that will get you a cost that you want. And you're using the automated rules to say if Facebook was wrong, then you're gonna prevent it from wasting more money. The combination of those 2 is gonna make a very effective set of ads for you. So that's the basic structure. It makes it extraordinarily simple to run ads, because for any single landing page or any product, you basically only have 2 campaigns and you're really only using 3 audiences. One, which is broad, which is essentially the lack of an audience, and then a lookalike 1% and a lookalike 10% based off of data sets. And if it's a brand new store, you might not even have the lookalikes yet. So you just do the creative testing. And by the time you finish the creative testing, you'll have enough data to make lookalikes off of. And maybe you start on a lookalike, instead of purchasers in the last 180 days, it's add to carts in the last 180 days. Because that's all the information that you have. But I would try to match the lookalike data source to whatever the CPA thing that you're running your rules on. So if you're running your rules on add to carts, then try to make the lookalikes at the add to cart. But in general, you've got broad, you've got a 1% lookalike pool and a 10% lookalike pool. So that will that will set you up to run in creative testing only the ads that work really well. And then inside of scaling, spend as much money as possible against only the best ads. It's that simple. And I've gotten accounts that had a dozen campaigns down to like 3 or 4. And I see a lot of people with a lot of campaigns or a lot of ad accounts that have dozens of campaigns, or like they've got 1 or 2 ad sets per campaign, or each campaign is its own audience, and they're really struggling. This is a really simple way of solving it. And it's extremely easy to manage. And every dollar that you spend informs other efforts, which is also great. Because you don't have 1,000 campaigns all spending money in different places, that's all spending in one place. The first dollar that you spend will help inform the $1,000, the dollar you spend 3 months later, because it's all in one place. Because your sales manager, your campaign, understands how the salesman, your ad sets, are supposed to use the sales pitches, the ads. So while the learnings happen at the ad level, ultimately you're training Facebook how to use your assets the best. So that's basically it. Abdullah has a couple other questions. Dynamic creative would do that automatically, right? Yes, dynamic creative would do that automatically. However, dynamic creative won't let you scale individual best performing ad units, and it doesn't provide you back the feedback to create new ads better based on what's winning. I think dynamic creative, if you're not going to follow this structure, dynamic creative can work really well for you. I haven't combined dynamic creative with this structure to try to make some like super thing, because I find that it's better for my ads. The downside of dynamic creative is you don't stack up these really long histories of comments, and you can't monitor everything. It's hard for you to stay on top of customer service. The benefit of dynamic creative is that it does all this work for you. The downside is that you have less ability to run a solid business. So in my own opinion, you don't need to have dynamic creative do the work for you, because now there are tools inside of Facebook that will let you do the job better than dynamic creative, and it doesn't take much more work. It might take you an extra few minutes when you're building the ads, but after that, it's easy. Abdullah also asked, do you use broad targeting always? What if my product appeals to divorced women who like cats? Why shouldn't I use that interest because it's not a product that have mass appeal for broad targeting? The reason is, so first, yes, I'm using broad targeting always. The reason is because Facebook will be able to reach those people. It will understand that those are the kinds of people that you want to reach. Those are the kinds of people that you want to show your ad to. However, those aren't the only people that maybe want to buy your product. Also, those people, Facebook might not be able to identify that's the person when you're using interest groups. Interest groups are pretty good at getting stuff right. They're 60-70% correct most of the time. But there's a lot of people that it's not reaching. Also, anytime you layer on an interest group or some level of behavior targeting or something like that, then like say you put in, I only want to target divorced women who are interested in cats, then you're taking your giant pool of audience down to really narrow. When you do that, you're going to pay a lot more to reach those people. The cost of the Facebook inventory is a lot higher against them. So so it ends up being less efficient for you. Plus, because you've been testing and you're targeting that very narrow audience, it's going to be very difficult for you to ramp up your spend and to scale your ad account, because there's a very finite number of people there, and you've limited the number of mistakes that Facebook has made to learn who those people are that you want to sell to. So you want Facebook to make as many mistakes as possible, as efficiently as possible. So you want to try to find a way of reaching people for as cheap as possible, and nothing is cheaper than broad targeting. Yeah, so that's that. Anyway, I know it's a bad example. I absolutely get it, but yeah. Anyway, that's it then. Thank you guys very much again. I really appreciate it. And if you enjoy the show, if you like the channel, invite your friends. Check out the Patreon. And I'm going to try to do everything I can to make it more and more valuable. And I hope you guys are enjoying the case studies I'm dropping every week or every day. They're going to be going through the rest of the month. So a little bit of insider Facebook information for you guys. And I'll talk to you later. All right, bye.